Who qualified you to lead anyway? It's a valid question. Like, we are facing difficulties in the medical profession that not many people seem to have answers to. Yep, we got a new budget with a triple bulk billing incentive. But the question mark is, will it make a difference? Will it actually solve the problems we are facing? You see, the problems that we are dealing with right now are of a demographic and a technological nature. We got two big challenges. Now, the demographics was known about. It's been known for some time, ever since the baby boomers have been moving through as an age group. And this has been going on, my father's the first of the baby boomers, I think in 46, born in 46. He just turned 77. He happens to be in a nursing home with late stage dementia. And we are dealing with the problem, we are, as a family, dealing with the problem of like, hey, his quality of life is terrible. Terrible quality of life, but what do? There's no ability right now for him to enter into any voluntary euthanasia experience and end his suffering. Even though Dementia Australia has brought this to the attention of the Queensland government, still nothing can be done, and so he lies in a nursing home, largely oblivious to the world. Completely oblivious, not largely, completely oblivious. And this is just one of multiple problems that we've got because the demographics of the baby boomers getting older. It means more consumption of healthcare, more requirement for healthcare, more complex healthcare. And this is at a time that the choices of some people in our society who were meant to be leading got a little bit excited about an upper respiratory tract infection and caused some serious decimation of services. What they failed to realize was that a lot of things that are done in the world are in people's experience. They've done them multiple times, and many businesses, including healthcare, just had not documented very much. And when you shut everything down, suddenly we got a significant problem of trying to remember how things got done. And this has led to increased stress, increased burnout, nurses, doctors, receptionists, specialists, EDs. And now what we're seeing is the consequences, but this may only be the start. This is a difficult situation because eventually, just like med students learnt not to do GP because it's not working, they're also going to learn not to do emergency because it's not working. And so we're going to have all of these med students wanting to be specialists because the quality of life is way better. You get paid more money to deal with less problems, and then you can ship them back and say, hey, GP, emergency, go deal with it when we couldn't handle it. Then on the technological front, we've got some other challenges. We've got AI coming in. We've got a workforce that often wants to work and wants to do things remotely. But I was trained from a very young age. My father was a doctor, and he would speak of these cases where the patient had not been examined. And admittedly, the pickup rate on many examinations is low. It's not that there aren't things there, they just haven't been manifest yet. We don't know how to see them before they've appeared on the blood tests. But AI can handle this. It can go through and be referencing all of the 650 plus diseases, all of the rare cases, the possibilities. It can do this better than I can, probably better than you can. Perhaps you're very, very skilled at memorizing massive amounts of information and then having them at your fingertips when you're consulting. And you might be able to do that for the first or second or third patient, but at the 22nd patient, at the 31st patient for the day, it becomes very exhausting. So the question is, what are we going to do And who qualified me to say, hey, you know what, maybe I got some solutions here. You see, I have walked an interesting path. It's been a combination of spiritual and physical and emotional. 3 children. I've been married, been going out with my wife now, coming on 22 years. And that path itself is very challenging. The 3 children is very challenging. For those of you with kids, you will know how difficult raising children is. Then having my father get dementia. I actually had to divorce his partner. She didn't want to take any responsibility for the dementia. We're like, hey, there seems to be a problem here. Could you get him seen? And we could work out what the diagnosis is. And she said, no, I don't want to find that out. There's no problem. We're like, well, there pretty sure seems to be some problems. You've had 2 police reports of Dad, my father, walking down the street without clothes on, just his underwear. What the heck's going on? No, we're not going to get medical to actually see. And I was like, oh, you know what? This needs to be dealt with. And we had a giant fight. It was not easy, into tribunals and all sorts of shenanigans. And I ended up having to divorce her from my father because my father was incapable of doing that. And I thought that I had got out of it. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to win. You fight with the government. And so I handed over control of my father's financial affairs to the government. And I was like, you guys sort it out. This is going nowhere. And then the government said, guess what, Tom? Oh, we don't do divorces. You have to divorce your father's partner. I'm like, whoa, what? Okay. So this itself was a crazy adventure. And I had previously built, with my wife, we had built a cottage, and then we renovated a Queenslander, moved to Queenslander down, all with 3 kids. 2 kids, 3 kids at the time. Bought land. All of these have been very challenging. And then the doozy showed up. I had a little argument with a doctor at my work. And they were like, you know what, Tom, you're incompetent. You're such a bad doctor, you don't even know you're a doctor. You're like that Dr. Patel. I'm like, oh, really? Really? That is an interesting judgment that you have on me, but okay, I think you're a bully. And then, boom, guess what happened? Can you guess? I got reported for 8 patients. 8 patients. I was like, whoa, plus a general mudslinging across the board. Like just trying to throw as much dirt at me as possible. It ended up being 2,500 pages of notes that I had to go through. And in APRA's wonderful understanding of what it's like to go through this experience, they're like, yeah, we'd like your a report within 2 weeks. 2,500 pages. And just as a little kicker, it doesn't come out in chronological order. Like the results are separated from the notes, which are separated from the letters. So even putting back the chronological order was a significant challenge in itself. Then we've got COVID going on, and for those of you who haven't been through the experience, it's not very well run. They don't give you any indication. After 7 months of not hearing from them after my report, they finally came back and said, well, we're not really sure what to do with this. We're going to send it to the medical board. So off it goes to the medical board, and then finally, I think it was like it was November 2020, and then the medical board, I get my report in within 6 weeks. APRA comes back 7 months later, and then I had my first and only meeting so far with the medical board in March 2022. I just had COVID, so my brain's kind of fried. I don't know if you guys have had COVID, you probably have. That you may have noticed that for a couple of weeks afterwards, there's a brain impairment. I definitely had that. So I had COVID about a month before. I can't learn a damn thing. And I'm like, ugh, this sucks. So I go through that. And they say, you know what? It seems like you know what you're doing. We'll see you in July 2023. 16 months. I'm like, you know what? This sucks. This fucking sucks. Like, what the heck? Like, so either you are not concerned and that's why you made it so long, or if you are concerned, why did you make it so long? 16 months is an awfully long time. Now, if you haven't had conditions It's the weirdest thing. It really is the weirdest thing. It plays in the back of my mind constantly. What will someone think? What will someone think? What will someone think? They said, your notes aren't up to scratch. And I was like, okay, fine. My notes were pretty good, but they happened to call one patient and I hadn't got good notes. I'm like, damn it. Okay, yes, you're right. My notes need to be better on this patient. My notes are meticulous now. And I also learnt that the software that you use does make a difference. Best practice produces significantly better notes than Genie does. I'm not sure they're aware of that. That's fine. I don't care. But the interesting thing is that the pressure that this places on doctors is significant. And how to deal with that is a skill set. It's not an easy skill set by any means. This constant daily pressure hanging in the back. And those tools, those skill sets, are actually what requires someone to be able to lead others. You see, if you've never been tested, if you have never been under difficult circumstances and built houses with children, or divorced, this other person was quite bizarre person, divorced that person on behalf of my father. If you've never been reported and been through these situations, how would you know how you respond under those conditions? How would you know to have empathy for somebody else going through that situation? And just in case you don't think this is relevant, notice that the report just came out on APRA and said, you guys really don't know what you're doing. 16 deaths. 16 doctors died because of APRA's inability to have any understanding of what it's like to go through these circumstances. My favorite part out of all of it, when the medical board finally kicked down their like, hey, we'll see you in 16 months. They also include a letter, hey, if you're struggling, here's a number to call. This is like 18 months in. I'm like, yeah, guys, you really have no idea what this experience is like. Hopefully it ends. You can go check out my APRA record, have a look on there. There's 2 that have been removed. They were to complete a opiate course. And just in case you're wondering, there is no evidence for long-term opiates at all. If you happen to be prescribing these, then you will discover that there's no evidence. You should stop. Do not start opiates for chronic pain. There's no evidence they work. And you can have my 22-page report on that. So it's been difficult. It's been very challenging to go through these circumstances. And the daily disciplines of meditation, of the questions that I ask myself, my connection to the universe, my desire to exercise, to look after my children, look after my wife, to study, to get better. All of these are the criteria that are required to show up and lead someone out of their suffering and their pain, whether that's an APRA notification, whether that's an adverse event, whether that's just patients that are frustrating someone and they're making poor decisions, they're getting under their skin, they're not sleeping properly, they're worried by their clinical decision making. All of these pressures fall upon the shoulders of doctors, and no one's talking about it. No one's talking about it much. I mean, you might be questioned to say, hey, maybe you need to study some more about a particular disease, but is that really what we're dealing with? I don't think so. I think it's how we are showing up every single day for ourselves, for our families, for our patients. And the skill sets required in this are learnable, are trainable, but it takes someone who's actually been there and been tested. I'll leave you with one last idea before I go surfing. I'm heading out to Watergoes. My son's already out there. There's a movie. It's called 300. But at the beginning, the king is tested. It's from set in Sparta. And the king gets sent out to train. It's called the Agode. It's brutal. But in that experience, they learn where their limits are, and they learn the suffering and how to deal with that. And they learn how to fight. Now, we don't have to go to war with spears and clubs and shields, but there is a war going on within ourselves, within our hearts and our minds and our bellies every single day. And it's how to manage ourselves. If this is a conversation that you recognize at some level, even if you're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous, but you recognize that there are skill sets that you would benefit from, then head over to GraduateMedicine.com and join up for this clinical certainty trial, for the education session about what we're facing in this crazy world. It's unlikely to get easier. Hopefully it does. Hopefully we're over-prepared. But with the demographics as they are, the technology as they are, the financial strain as it is, it could get a little bit more difficult from here. And how you show up will make a difference for yourself, for your family, and for your patients. Head over to GraduateMedicine.com. Thanks for tuning in today. Look forward to seeing you on a future live episode. See you then.